Hello everyone, this is Snehar from the Obizz podcast series. Thank you for joining us. We try to bring you a breadth of different kind of information relating to business. Today we are sticking with the business theme but also looking at the future, and we're looking at technology and innovation. We have today a father and son duo. We have Sanjeev and Kush Gadhia from Astral Aviation. They're going to be talking about the future of transport. We're going to be touching on the aviation sector, the challenges and the opportunities, and actually even the future of flying, and some interesting innovations that Astral is driving. So welcome to you, Sanjeev and Kush.
Thank you.
So maybe to kick this off, if you can give a little bit of your background, Sanjeev. How did you get into this sector?
Thank you, Snehar. I'm actually a banker by profession.
Right.
And I had no clue about the aviation business, but when I came back to Kenya after finishing my studies in the UK, I went into private business and I was doing a lot of procurement and supplies to the United Nations,
right,
especially into Somalia and into Sudan. And that's when we realized that there is a unique opportunity to have aircrafts which can carry cargo to some of the hotspots which are surrounding Kenya. And in the year 1999, we decided to start our journey in the aviation sector with 4 Russian cargo aircrafts. That's really how we started at a time when there were no cargo airlines in East Africa. And in the year 2020, we actually completed our 20th anniversary.
Fantastic.
And it's been a really great 20 years. I've really enjoyed the journey, and there's still a lot more to go.
Right, and you've hit many milestones. So you said you started with the 4 Russian aircrafts, but now you own a jumbo jet.
Yes, so we currently have a fleet of 14 cargo aircrafts, which also includes 2 Boeing 747s, which fly from Nairobi to London 4 times a week.
Wow.
With fruits, vegetables and flowers for Waitrose supermarket. And this is something which we've been doing now for 8 years. And it's just one part of our business. We also do a lot of interesting flights into very difficult places like Yemen, where we just completed our 320th flight carrying humanitarian cargo into the worst region in the world in terms of aviation security and safety.
Right.
So besides that, we also have a really great operations out of Kenya, where we fly to 14 destinations in Africa, and we provide accessibility and connectivity for a lot of the global airlines who fly into the Nairobi hub. And the business is really doing great. We've had the last 4 months have been really good. We've been very busy, and we've not been affected by the COVID. We've not laid off any staff. We've not had any pay cuts.
Right.
Our planes have actually been flying every day.
Okay.
During the pandemic.
When everybody's thinking about shrinking, are you thinking of expanding your fleet?
Yes, absolutely. So our fleet has already expanded from 9 aircrafts before COVID to 14. We were flying to 8 destinations before COVID, and now we are flying to 15 destinations. So over the next 6 months to a year, we are taking in more cargo aircrafts. And the biggest opportunity and also the biggest challenge will be the transportation of vaccines, which is something that we're looking forward to in 2021 to transport.
Right.
Because the transportation of vaccines will be the most complex and the most difficult logistics exercise in the world.
Yes. I mean, that's amazing. Do you already have some insights in terms of, because I think everybody's curious on when the vaccines will turn up?
We're expecting that the vaccines will come out in the first quarter of 2021.
Okay.
And Africa will only receive 20% of the vaccines. So you're looking at a population of about 1 billion people. Will have 200 million vaccines, which will be released by the Vaccine Alliance for Africa in 2021, and this is only meant for the frontline health care workers and also the most vulnerable, like the elderly and those with underlying conditions.
Right.
So what would actually happen is that a lot of us will have to wait until 2022 to get the vaccines, because when you look at the production cycle, and depending on which vaccine is released into Africa first, whether it'll be the Chinese vaccine or the Indian vaccine or the European vaccine
or the Russian one,
right. We'll have to wait until the first part of 2021,
right,
because the whole world needs it, but we will only get it in different stages of 2021. So we have at least another 6 months more before we will get a vaccine for Africa.
Yeah, so that's very interesting to hear that you've not been exposed with the downturn, and you've been working at the Kenyatta Airport. It must be like a ghost town for the last 4 months.
Absolutely. The most amazing thing is there's just no traffic.
Right.
And we've been working out of JKI. It takes about an hour and a half, from home to get to the airport, and the same on the way back. Now we can actually do the journey in about 30 minutes. But the amazing thing is that the airport became a ghost town once the government decided to stop all passenger flights. So what actually happened was that the only people who were flying were the cargo aircrafts, and this was very important because we actually made sure that the supply chains were kept open, and the transportation of PPEs, the transportation of ventilators and test kits were all done on cargo aircrafts. But even more importantly, we made sure that our flights to the UK and into Europe with perishables continued to operate during the pandemic, so that the supermarkets in the UK had enough stock of Kenyan fruits and vegetables and flowers during the pandemic.
Amazing. It's good to learn the behind the scenes, what is happening. So Sanjeev, you speak at a lot of conferences. Any insights or vision you can share in terms of the future of transport? I mean, we've seen the internet and technology revolutionize a lot of things in the past couple of decades, but what does transport look like for you?
There is a lot of innovation which is coming out in transport. So when you look at the passenger industry, you've actually got a lot of innovation towards supersonic. And that is really very necessary because the entire journey time is getting longer and longer. So there's a lot of new technology, a lot of new aircrafts coming out, which will shorten the distance between cities. And the future of supersonic travel is really looking very promising.
Right.
But besides that, besides the supersonic travel, you're actually seeing a situation where you will see a lot of unmanned flights, which will take place starting with cargo and slowly going into the passenger sector. So what we are seeing is that the innovation will be faster for the transportation of cargo because the risk of human life is much lower compared to carrying passengers. But the future looks really promising, at least for the next generation. There's when you look at 10 to 20 years ahead of time, you will see a lot of new options which will be there. The cost of traveling will come down, and we will be able to reach villages compared to cities and towns, and the whole notion of going from one airport to another airport will simply disappear. We will be able to go from your house in Nairobi to my house in Kisumu.
Right.
So that is the future of air transport, where you go beyond the airport. Because remember, airport is just a part of the journey.
Yes.
Getting to the airport and getting home from the airport is always longer than the journey of air transport.
Right.
And the long-term vision of air transport and air cargo, whether it's for cargo or passengers, is to actually connect individuals and homes and villages rather than airports.
Wow, fascinating. So this is point-to-point travel.
Point to point. So imagine going for a holiday where you leave from your house in Westlands and you go directly to your hotel in Diani, and not having to go to the airport at Wilson or at JKI or going to the airport in Ukunda. Now you're actually going directly from your home to your hotel.
That's right.
Going from one business, so you're doing B2B transportation. So that is where the future of transport is going on, and we see smaller airports and an extent where the role of the airport will be insignificant in many years to come.
Fascinating. Now, you've been part of this revolution already, and you've already achieved and are achieving certain milestones. It's nice to see that you have the young generation involved here. But maybe before we go into that, Kush, what is your background? Are you also exposed to the aviation sector?
Definitely. As my dad said, he's been in aviation for the past 20 years, so I've been brought up around it. So from a very young age, that's been my focus, is to actually become a pilot.
Okay.
So, since then, we've pivoted that whole, wanted to become a pilot, and I got into aviation business. So that was a degree I took in university, and I took a PPL course just as a minor. So at that time, that's when we realized that there could be an opportunity in drone technology here in Kenya. And, with a little drone in university, I started seeing the opportunity of how I could use that technology here.
Right.
And that's really where the idea sort of came from. And combining my idea with some local expertise here with a good local strong team that my dad had a relationship with, we set up Astral Aerial.
Okay.
And,
Astral Aerial.
Astral Aerial solution.
Right.
So that's the drone business. Of course, it's an affiliate of Astral Aviation, and of course our core goal initially was to support the supply chain using unmanned automated cargo drones. And of course, since then we've got regulatory challenges and different technologies coming up, and whereas now We're currently offering services in mapping using drone data
Right.
to impact farmers' yield. So giving accurate data to have an impact so that a farmer can increase his yield from a certain amount to a higher amount. Combining that data with spraying technology. So less use of chemicals, better applications.
Right.
So that's where we are right now, and we have the first approval in Kenya.
Fantastic.
With the first
Congratulations. That must have been a long journey to get that.
Definitely,
But,
the
you
3-year
have-
journey.
Right.
But here we are today, and next week we'll be spraying locusts in Samburu.
And Astral Aerial is currently the only and the first company to be licensed to operate drones in Kenya.
That's right. We're the only company right now, and it was a long process as you mentioned, but we're finally there. It was a big win for us, and so far it's small steps. This is the first one, and we'll be moving quite
And
fast.
Kush, you released a video yesterday. Can you talk about that in Samburu? And you're also
Definitely.
helping with the locust control, right?
So definitely. So we're part of a team between the DFID and Kabi, which is a research organization.
What is DFID for our listeners?
So that's a part of it's a development arm of the British government.
Okay.
So we've won a grant with them, and we'll be using that grant to test the use case of how drones can be a supplementary tool for spraying locusts here in Kenya. And so far we've begun the initial trials, and it has been quite successful. We've got, of course, subsequent experiments to run, which is what we'll be doing for the next few months.
Right.
Yeah.
And in one particular big region, how many drones would you need to eradicate the locusts?
So for this experiment, we're using 2 drones right now. We're able to cover around 20 acres per hour per drone. Of course, it is smaller than what an aircraft can do, a manned aircraft can do. But I think the use case that we're focusing on is the smaller locust swarms. Of course, once a large aircraft sprays a swarm, there are remnants, and our target is to use drones for that particular use case. The smaller swarms where it's not cost effective to use a large aircraft.
Right. We were in Yokohama together last year in Japan,
That's right.
where you also signed a big agreement with a big Japanese organization. Can you talk to that?
Yes. So we signed an MOU with Yamaha.
Yes.
So they've actually been flying unmanned helicopters, which they manufacture for the past, since 1998. They've been flying these helicopters, and really the goal of this aircraft is to use it for crop spraying. But the unique advantage of this is to also use it for transport and other items as well. So it's got a 32 kilo payload. So with that, you're quite flexible, whether you're spraying one day or doing a delivery in a remote part of Kenya or doing some surveillance, let's say.
Right.
So it's a multi-use aircraft.
Right.
So we're looking
So
forward to
we've
that.
talked about the sort of the agricultural angle. We've talked about the humanitarian aspect, but we all know where, say, the future of shopping is heading. With e-commerce and with the success of Amazon. I mean, it's just a matter of time before it comes to Africa. What will be your role in the future of sort of e-commerce?
Yeah, so definitely the e-commerce delivery side, we see a situation where we will be the operator of the drones, where perhaps let's say an online store could contract us to perform the last mile delivery, to the destination, where it's from warehouse directly to the house of the end consumer. So that's definitely the goal, where they use, rather than doing it themselves, rather than them straying away from their core business, so they would subcontract us to perform the last mile delivery.
And if you were to place a bet, how many years down the line should we see this becoming a reality?
Definitely. So I think in Kenya we're possibly a year or two away.
Okay.
But of course we see that Amazon has just received FAA approval in the US. But I think that the bigger opportunity is using larger cargo drones. We've got an aircraft in Spain that can do 1.8 tons unmanned.
Wow.
So we see a situation where that aircraft will be here sooner than the smaller drones doing the smaller deliveries, where we could hit destinations that require more payload, more supplies.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, it's an amazing disruptive journey you guys are on. Wish you the best in that. Sanjeev, are there some parting words you'd like to share in terms of what has been your, because you are also innovating, but you're learning a lot as well. Are there some things that you've learned? It could be related to aviation or life in general. I mean, what is your mantra in life that you'd like to share?
What I believe is life is about the journey, not about the destination. And one needs to enjoy the journey and take small steps, because it is the small steps which you take which will enable you to complete the journey. And I strongly believe that it's not about the destination, but it is about the journey, and to enjoy it and to take on every challenge that comes in your way. Have the trust and the confidence that you will reach and complete the journey.
Fantastic. I'm sure that will pay off. And once again, I wish you the best in your journey.
Thank you, Sneha.
Thank you.